Okay, so uh, today's topic is whether and to what extent authentic malevolence exists. Um, you could also think of it as whether or not and the extent to which uh, authentic bullies exist. Bullying, malevolence, however you want to think of it. Um, so let me try to explain to you, first of all, what authentic bullying and malevolence could possibly be. Authentic bullying and malevolence is malevolence that is not for the sake of something else. It's like, it's the kind of malevolence you'd have to imagine were possible, if it exists, only in circumstances where, like, for a person, every of their other benign desires are gratified. They are living in paradise. They have everything they want, all the food they want, all the delicious food they want to eat without getting out of shape and fat and all this kind of stuff that they don't want to be. All the social positiveness that they could possibly want. They get sexual intimacy that's highly gratifying, on demand. You know, they're living with all their otherwise benign desires gratified at, you know, snap of a finger. And yet they still have a desire to hurt others. This would be authentic. It's they don't have the desire to hurt others because they have a frustrated desire. It's just for no other reason than the chemistry in their brains makes them want to hurt people. Authentic malevolence, authentic bullying, authentic sadism, sadism, yeah, all that. It's just like, so I've sometimes pondered whether or not authentic malevolence exists, because, like, the reflective image of that pondering, the other question is, like, if we created a technological paradise that gratified everybody else's, everyone's benign desires, would we get rid of bullying? Would we get rid of malevolence? Because everybody's so happy in every other way, would they still feel the desire to hurt each other for no other reason than just to enjoy hurting each other? Another way I've heard about this talked about is in terms of whether a particular desire is instrumental. Sometimes they call it the distinction between instrumental and terminal. Like, an instrumental desire is a desire that you want to gratify for the sake of gratifying, in turn, some other desire. You want to go to the ice cream parlor. That's a desire you have. But the reason you want to go there is because you want to taste that delicious ice cream. So the taste of the delicious ice cream is a desire you have that would be terminal. And the desire to drive to the ice cream parlor would be an instrumental desire. It is the desire gratified for the sake of gratifying some other, a chain of desires that terminates at a terminal desire. Can malevolence be a terminal desire, then? It has no other desires that gratifying it would lead to the gratification of. And I wondered about this because, I don't know. I guess I have to say something sort of anecdotal about this. As I reflect on my own development, evolution as a thinker and feeler about human relations, I seem to remember at the ages of around 6 to 10 and stuff like that, where I would speculate that there was no such thing as a terminal, authentic malevolence or a terminally authentic bully. And that if we all just had our needs met, that's kind of a scare quote thing for me, needs met, that we would not be motivated to hurt each other anymore. It was a kind of an optimistic, naive, perhaps left-wingish kind of feeling I had when I was a kid like that. And I guess I've held on to that largely through my teenage years and into young adulthood, and there's of course remnants of that notion in me right now still. You know, it's like I still have this gut instinct that if we just satisfied everybody's otherwise benign desires, that we could calm down and stop wanting to hurt each other. But I'm not so sure. Some contrary evidence might be those experiments you might have heard about where they divide test subject populations into prisoners and guards, staff of the prison, you know? And it's like, and other experiments to see whether or not, to test how willing we are to hurt each other, you know? It's like the guards in these experiments, for example, let the power they have over the prisoners go to their heads, so to speak, and they get corrupt, so to speak, and they begin to view themselves as superior to the prisoners in ways that warrant and excuse, being cruel to the prisoners. And that seems to speak to a terminal kind of malevolence that can bubble up when liberated, when the situation has it that such malevolence would be liberated. By this I mean, perhaps like most of us have a terminal malevolence and sadism in us that's ever present, and it's terminal, it's authentic, but most of us don't have the opportunity to try to gratify those things without being punished for it in some way. So it goes suppressed, repressed. We have an innate, terminal, authentic sadism, bully wish, malevolence in us that will come out if liberated, if we are put in a situation where the penalties for acting on it are lifted from us, such as playing the prison guards. We'll start hurting each other. But on the other hand, it's like maybe that only happens because all of us experience frustration of our otherwise benign desires anyway. So like all of us have malevolence that will flare up and will act on it when there's no more consequences for doing so. We all have that. We're all potential bullies. It's just that we're all potential bullies. Excuse me while I try to regain my train of thought. We're all potential bullies, but is that bully wish authentic or not? And either seems plausible still. Even though all of us are potential bullies, it could still be that our bully wish is inauthentic, not terminal, that it would go away if we had our otherwise benign desires gratified through a technological paradise of some sort. I keep saying technological paradise, but that's not the only condition that could lead to radical gratification of most of our benign desires. There could be other ways. Maybe not, I don't know. I'll look into that later, but for now I just wanted to bring up this issue of whether and to what extent malevolence can be terminal and authentic. And I think the answer to this would have large implications for anybody who's trying to relieve suffering on this planet. Because bullying is something you want to get rid of. Bullying causes suffering. So it'd be pretty important to know whether or not bullying would vanish under certain circumstances. Right now, we try to quell bullying regardless if it's terminal or not, with negative consequences. You know, we'll punish you if you start bullying. And I imagine this topic as something that's been studied extensively by many others, and I'm just not familiar with any of that research because I'm not well read on things like this, to my chagrin. But if you happen to be familiar with such studies and scholarship, go ahead and hit me up and tell me about some of it in the comments of this video. Also, there was something else I was also, when I said a while ago that I think this issue is important for some reason, I said it was important for, you know, anybody who's interested in, relieving suffering. There was another thing that I thought that this also becomes interesting and relevant for, besides just people who are trying to relieve suffering. Perhaps I meant the other thing might have been politics or something, but politics just ends up reducing to efforts to relieve suffering anyway. So I don't know. I had another fork that I wanted to cover in my train of thought, and now I've forgotten what that fork was. Damn. Okay. Well, that's enough for today then. Bye.